Sam stood at the edge of the royal hall, his heart steady though his surroundings were far from ordinary. He was a human envoy, chosen to represent his people in a place where few humans had ever been allowed. Before him stretched the grand chamber of the alien kingdom, a structure so vast that even Earth's tallest cathedrals would feel small compared to it. The hall's walls shimmered with crystal veins that glowed softly, casting pale light across the polished floor. Tall alien guards lined the path, their armor glinting as if forged from liquid stone. Their faces were hidden behind masks carved into sharp designs, each one different, like faces of creatures that once lived in forgotten myths. Every step Sam took echoed in the chamber, reminding him how small he was in this foreign place. At the far end, seated upon a throne that seemed grown out of living crystal, sat the alien queen. She was tall, graceful, and radiated authority in a way that made every other figure in the hall feel lesser. Her robe stretched down the throne steps like a flowing river of silver and violet, and her crown shone with fragments of stars. Her eyes, deep and bright, followed Sam with sharp interest. The queen did not speak at first. She simply watched him as one would watch a rare creature entering an unfamiliar world. Around her, alien advisors whispered to one another. Some of them tilted their heads and sneered, unimpressed by the small human walking toward their ruler. Others looked curious, their glowing eyes flicking between Sam's calm face and the object he carried in his hands. Sam held the object carefully, wrapped in simple cloth. It was not large, nor was it made of rare material. To anyone watching, it might have seemed ordinary, even laughable, compared to the treasures usually brought before the queen. Yet Sam carried it with purpose, his every step measured, his gaze steady as he approached the throne. The closer he drew, the heavier the silence became. The whispers grew faint until only the soft hum of the crystals could be heard. The guards, though motionless, tightened their grip on their weapons. Their stances made it clear that one wrong move from him would end with his life on the floor of that hall. Still, Sam did not falter. He walked with the quiet confidence of someone who believed his mission was not only important but necessary. When he reached the base of the throne steps, he stopped and bowed deeply. His movement was slow and respectful, practiced many times during the long journey here. He held the wrapped object close to his chest, lowering himself until his knee touched the shining floor. For a long moment, the hall remained in complete silence. Then the queen raised one hand, and the whispers of the court faded away. Her voice, when she spoke, carried a strange balance of beauty and command, echoing through the chamber without the need for force. "You have traveled far, human," she said, her words translated by the hall's subtle machine so all could understand. "Few of your kind have stood before me. Fewer still have come bearing anything of worth. Tell me, why should I grant you audience?" Sam lifted his head, his expression calm but his eyes bright with conviction. He did not rush to answer. Instead, he slowly rose to his feet, careful not to make any sudden movements that might alarm the guards. He held the wrapped object slightly forward but did not yet reveal what lay inside. "I come as a messenger of peace," Sam said. His voice was firm, carrying clearly across the hall though it was not loud. "I bring with me not riches, not weapons, but something from my people's heart. A gift, small in size, but greater in meaning." His words caused ripples of murmurs among the advisors. Some scoffed, their voices filled with mockery. One of them, a tall alien with ridges across his face, stepped forward slightly and sneered. "A human gift? What could a fragile being from a distant world possibly offer our queen? Precious stones? Energy devices? You bring cloth in your hands as though it were treasure. The hall filled with quiet laughter, but the queen did not join them. She raised her hand again, and the sound ended immediately. Her eyes stayed locked on Sam, her gaze sharp but curious. "What is it you hold?" she asked. "And why do you believe it belongs before my throne?" Sam took a slow breath. He did not reveal the object yet. Instead, he carefully set it down at his feet, still wrapped. He bowed his head once more. "It is not the size of the gift that matters, Your Majesty," Sam said. "It is the meaning it carries. I ask only that you see it with your own eyes." The queen tilted her head, her crown catching the light of the glowing crystals. Around her, the advisors leaned closer, some eager, some doubtful. The guards shifted, their hands still firm on their weapons, but even they could not hide their interest. The queen leaned back against her throne, her long robe flowing like water down the steps. Her voice grew quieter, yet it carried an undeniable weight. "Very well, human. You have my attention. But understand this: if your offering insults me, your journey will be your last." Sam did not flinch. He nodded once, his calm expression unchanged. The object lay between him and the throne, waiting to be unwrapped. And so the hall grew still once more. Every alien eye focused on the small, ordinary bundle placed before the queen. Whispers of doubt and curiosity buzzed at the edge of silence, but no one dared speak too loudly. The queen herself remained unmoving, her eyes steady on the gift that was yet to be revealed. Sam stood straight, his posture respectful but unbroken. He had reached the moment he had traveled across the stars for, the moment that would decide whether humans remained overlooked or whether they could prove their worth in a single act of meaning. The queen's hand moved slightly, a signal that she would decide when the cloth would be removed. Until then, the gift waited in silence, and so did everyone in the hall. The first step had been taken, and though nothing had been revealed, the atmosphere itself had already shifted. The alien court, once so certain of human weakness, now watched with cautious curiosity. The queen herself, though silent, seemed drawn to the mystery resting at her feet. The queen sat tall upon her crystal throne, her hand resting against the curved arm of it, her eyes never leaving the wrapped bundle lying at her feet. The court waited in silence, though tension pressed thick against the air. Every guard, every advisor, and every guest fixed their gaze upon the human envoy who stood calmly, his hands folded behind his back. Sam's presence seemed out of place in the shining hall. His clothing was plain compared to the flowing robes of the alien court, his boots worn from long travel, his face showing the quiet lines of a man who had lived through hardship. Yet his posture was steady, and there was no fear in his eyes. He did not bow again, nor did he speak without invitation. Instead, he waited with patience, as though he understood that silence itself was part of the trial. The queen finally lowered her hand and leaned forward slightly, her robe shifting across the throne steps. Her voice rang clear across the chamber. "You bring something hidden," she said. "My court doubts you. They believe you have come to waste my time. Speak, human. Why should I open this gift? Why should I not send you back to your kind with empty hands?" Sam looked at her with calm respect. His voice carried without strain, firm but not loud. "Because, Your Majesty, this is not a gift of wealth. It is not a gift that can be measured in weight or value. It is a gift of memory and of meaning. It comes not from the earth alone, but from the spirit of my people. If you allow yourself to see it, you may understand why I stand here." The queen studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face as though looking for deception. Her court, however, was less patient. One advisor, with golden skin that shimmered like liquid light, stepped forward with a sharp voice. This human dares to speak of meaning, as if his kind understands the depths of our history. Your Majesty, do not waste your time. Whatever lies beneath that cloth will be no more than a crude trinket. He seeks to charm you with plain words. Others nodded, muttering their agreement. Laughter rolled softly through some of the court, though it stopped when the queen's eyes lifted to them. Silence returned in an instant. The queen's command over the hall was so complete that even a glance from her could silence hundreds. Turning back to Sam, she raised her chin. You stand before me with confidence, human. That is rare. Tell me, then. Why bring such a gift to me and not to another? Why risk walking into this hall at all? Sam held her gaze without hesitation. Because you are the one who can see beyond the surface. I did not come here to impress those who measure power by wealth or strength. I came because I believe you can understand what this gift means, even if others do not. The words stirred the hall. Some advisors muttered angrily, believing the human had insulted them. Guards stiffened, ready to move should the queen give a command. Yet the queen herself remained still, her face unreadable. For a moment, silence ruled again. The hall felt heavy, as if the very air carried the weight of a storm. Then the queen's lips curved in the smallest hint of a smile, though her eyes still carried steel. Very bold, she said softly. A human who dares to tell me what I may understand. Sam bowed his head slightly, accepting her words without fear. Not daring, Majesty, he replied. Only honest. The court stirred again, unsettled by his calmness. Yet the queen raised her hand, and the noise died instantly. She leaned back in her throne, her eyes on the wrapped bundle. Very well, she said at last. Let the hall judge not by words but by what is shown. Step forward, human. Place your gift upon the steps where all may see it. The command hung heavy in the air. Sam bent down, lifted the wrapped object, and approached the steps slowly. The guards shifted, their weapons angled forward, but the queen gave them no order to stop him. Each of his steps rang against the crystal floor, echoing through the chamber until the sound seemed louder than it should have been. At the base of the throne, Sam set the gift gently upon the first step. He did not unwrap it. Instead, he stepped back, bowing low. It is yours to open, Majesty, he said. The queen lowered her gaze to the bundle. For several moments she did not move, as if testing the air around it, judging whether there was any hidden trick. Her advisors leaned forward with curiosity, some whispering once more. Ridiculous, one muttered. This is a waste. Another whispered, why does she hesitate? But the queen ignored them. Her eyes stayed fixed upon the cloth-wrapped object. Slowly, she lifted her hand. With a simple gesture, she commanded the wrapping to fall open. A thin current of energy shimmered in the air, and the cloth slipped away to reveal what was hidden inside. The moment of reveal had come. The hall leaned forward, every pair of eyes fixed on the object. But as the cloth peeled away, what lay beneath was not a glowing crystal, not a machine, not a jewel. It was a carving of wood, shaped into the form of a tree. The surface was smooth, the edges delicate, and though it was simple in design, it carried the unmistakable touch of hands that had worked with care and time. The hall froze. A silence heavier than before settled upon them. The advisors stared, confused. To them, it seemed plain. To the guards, it appeared fragile. To most in the court, it was nothing worth presenting to their ruler. But the queen did not speak. Her hand hovered just above the carving, her eyes locked on it. Sam stood tall once more, his face calm. He did not explain. He did not defend. He simply waited, knowing that words were no longer needed. The queen's fingers slowly touched the wooden surface. Her eyes flickered with something unspoken. The hall held its breath, waiting for her reaction. But she said nothing. Not yet. Her silence was more powerful than any command she had given. The wooden carving rested on the first step of the throne, its surface smooth and shining faintly under the glow of the crystal walls. To most of the aliens in the hall, it looked small and unremarkable. It was not made of rare metals, nor did it hum with energy like their machines. It had no light, no power, no fire. And yet, when the queen's hand touched it, silence spread deeper through the chamber. Her long fingers traced the curve of the carved branches. Her eyes, usually so sharp and unreadable, softened as if something old and hidden had returned to her thoughts. The court shifted uneasily. They expected her to laugh, or to wave it away, but she did not. Instead, she held it with both hands, lifting it gently as if it were more fragile than crystal. One advisor could not stay silent. He stepped forward, his robes dragging across the floor, his voice sharp with disdain. "Your Majesty, this is nothing. It is carved wood, brittle and plain. Humans call such things toys. It is unworthy of your throne." Murmurs rose again. Many agreed. Some shook their heads, confused. To them, it was the weakest gift ever presented to their ruler. A few even smirked, certain that the queen would scorn it within moments. But the queen did not answer her advisor. She continued to study the carving, her eyes moving across its lines as though she saw more than the surface. At last she spoke, her voice quiet but strong enough to fill the hall. "This is no toy," she said. The words stopped the muttering instantly. Every advisor froze, waiting to understand her meaning. The queen held the carving higher, tilting it so the light touched its edges. Her gaze grew distant, as though she were looking at something far beyond the hall. "Once, long before any of you were born, our world was covered with forests," she said. "There were trees taller than towers, their roots deep in the ground, their leaves drinking the light of our sun. Children played beneath them, families built their homes among them, and the air was filled with their voices when the wind passed through. That was before the wars. That was before fire and steel devoured what was living." Her voice carried both strength and sorrow. Many in the hall shifted uneasily, as though her words touched a wound they preferred to forget. Sam watched quietly. He had not spoken since she touched the carving. He knew his gift needed no explanation from him. It was her memory, her truth, that gave it meaning. The queen's fingers pressed softly against the wooden trunk of the carving. Her eyes shimmered with emotion, though no tears fell. "For centuries," she continued, "we have lived among stone and crystal. Our palaces grow, our ships reach the stars, our armies are strong, yet the green that once covered this world is gone. Few alive even remember the touch of a tree. Fewer still remember the scent of its leaves." The hall remained silent. Not a single advisor dared interrupt her now. Even the guards, though unmovable, seemed caught in her words. The queen lowered the carving to her lap, her hand resting protectively over it. She looked at Sam, her eyes no longer sharp with suspicion but heavy with thought. "You brought this," she said. "A reminder of what we lost. Tell me, human, why would you bring such a thing? How did you know what it would mean?" Sam stepped forward slightly, though he remained respectful, his head bowed. His voice was steady, carrying across the hall with quiet strength. "I did not know for certain, Majesty. I only knew that memory is powerful. My people too have places we have lost, things destroyed by time and war. But we remember them. We carry them in our stories, in our hands, in the small things we keep alive. I thought perhaps you too might understand what it means to hold a piece of what was once alive." His words were simple, yet they carried a weight that echoed in the silence. The queen studied him again. She saw no arrogance in his face, no trick in his eyes. He spoke as one who believed in what he carried, not as one seeking reward. Her advisors, however, were restless. One of them, his armor shimmering with embedded jewels, stepped forward with anger. "Majesty, do not be swayed. This is a trick. He seeks to weaken your heart with sentiment. A ruler cannot be moved by scraps of wood." Another joined him. "Yes. It is dangerous to give meaning to something so plain. What if this human uses it to gain your trust? What if it blinds you to his true purpose?" The court broke into whispers again, some agreeing, others confused, some even curious. The hall filled with sound, but the queen silenced them with a single lift of her hand. Her voice, when she spoke again, was cold and sharp. "Enough. Do you not see? This is not weakness. This is strength." The hall froze. Her words cut through the air like a blade. The queen stood from her throne, the carving still in her hand. She descended the steps slowly, each step ringing with purpose. The court watched in shock. Rarely did she leave her throne for anyone, yet now she walked directly toward the human envoy. Sam did not move. He remained steady, his posture respectful, his eyes following her approach. When she stood before him, the hall seemed to shrink. Her presence was overwhelming, her height towering above him, her robe sweeping the ground like a flowing river of light. Yet in her hands, she held the small wooden carving as though it were more valuable than any jewel in the hall. She lifted it slightly, showing it to the court. "Do you see?" she said. "Humans carry with them a gift we forgot. They remember what is gone. They honor what was once alive. They find value not in what shines brightest, but in what carries meaning. This is no weakness. This is what we have lost." Her voice grew strong, and it filled the chamber with authority. The advisors bowed their heads, silenced by her conviction. The guards lowered their weapons. The hall grew still once more. She looked down at Sam, her eyes holding a quiet respect. "You have given me something I thought lost forever," she said. "You have given me memory." Sam bowed deeply. "Then I have given what I came to give." The queen said no more. She turned back to her throne, the carving still in her hands. The hall remained silent, every figure watching her as she returned to her seat. For the first time in many years, the alien queen had been moved by something no one else in the court understood. She had been left speechless not by wealth, not by power, but by the simple touch of a memory carved from wood. The queen sat upon her throne once more, but her grip on the wooden carving was firm, as though she feared it might vanish if she loosened her hold. The hall had grown silent again. Every eye was on her, every advisor and guard waiting for her to speak. Yet she said nothing for several long moments. Her gaze lingered on the little tree in her hands, her expression distant, caught somewhere between sorrow and wonder. The silence was heavy, but it was not the silence of contempt. It was the silence of a ruler remembering something long buried. Sam stood where he had bowed, his head still slightly lowered. He did not speak, for he knew his words could not guide what the queen was feeling. This moment belonged to her, not to him. At last, she raised her head, her voice carrying not just authority but emotion. Long ago, she began, her tone softer than before, my mother told me stories of forests. She spoke of walking among tall trunks, of sunlight broken into 1,000 rays by leaves above her head. She told me of rivers that sang beside those trees, of wind that carried the voices of the living. She said it was beautiful. But I was born after the wars. I have never seen such a place with my own eyes. Her words echoed through the hall. The advisors shifted uneasily, for many of them had also been born after the forests were gone. To them, trees were myths, fragments of old stories. They had built their lives among crystal cities and barren lands, and they no longer thought of what had been lost. The queen looked at the carving once more. She traced its tiny branches with her finger, her lips pressed tight. This simple shape, she said quietly, reminds me of her voice. For the first time, I can almost see what she described. I can almost believe I am standing in that place. The hall was silent. No advisor dared interrupt her. Even the guards, disciplined and unyielding, stood a little straighter as if caught in the weight of her words. Sam raised his head slightly, his eyes meeting hers with quiet respect. Your Majesty, memory is a seed. When it is kept alive, it can grow again. Perhaps not as it once was, but it can return in new ways. The queen's gaze softened, but her advisors did not share her openness. One of them stepped forward, his robe dragging across the crystal floor, his face twisted with unease. Majesty, forgive me, but you cannot let a single human trinket sway you. Our strength is in power, not in memory. What use is this piece of wood? It cannot feed armies. It cannot protect cities. It cannot command respect from our rivals. Another joined him quickly. Yes. A ruler cannot be guided by sentiment. If we cling to what is lost, we will weaken ourselves. The past must stay buried, or we risk losing what we have built. Their voices stirred more murmurs across the hall. Some nodded, agreeing that the queen's heart was being pulled in a dangerous direction. Others remained uncertain, glancing between the human and their ruler, sensing that something important was happening but not daring to speak. Sam stayed silent. He had expected this resistance. He knew that meaning could not be forced into the hearts of those who refused to see it. The queen, however, did not silence her advisors this time. She let them speak, let their doubts fill the air. Only when the murmurs threatened to swell into open argument did she raise her hand. The chamber fell silent once more. Her eyes swept across her court, her voice cold and commanding. You speak of strength as if it only lives in weapons and walls, she said. You think memory has no value. But it is memory that shapes us. Without it, we are empty. Without it, we are nothing more than machines. Her words struck the hall like a sudden storm. No one dared answer. She turned her gaze back to Sam. You carry something my own people have forgotten. Tell me, human, why does your kind keep such memories alive when they bring pain? Sam stepped forward, his voice steady. Because memory is not only pain. It is also hope. If we remember what was lost, we can dream of finding it again. If we forget, then it is gone forever. My people choose to remember, even when it hurts, because hope is worth the weight of sorrow. The queen studied him, her expression unreadable. But deep in her eyes, something flickered, something the court had not seen in years. She rose from her throne again, the carving still in her hands. The hall stirred, uneasy at her movement, but no one dared step forward. She descended the steps until she stood once more before Sam. "This gift," she said softly, "is more than wood. It is a seed of memory. And though I may never see the forests of my mother's stories, this small piece allows me to hold them within my hands. That is why I cannot dismiss it." Sam bowed his head. "Then it has served its purpose." The Queen's gaze lingered on him, thoughtful and sharp. Then she turned, lifting the carving high for all the court to see. "Look at this," she commanded. "It is not metal, nor jewel, nor machine. It is a reminder. A reminder of what was lost, and of what may yet return. Remember this well. For if we forget where we came from, we will not know where we are going." Her words rang through the chamber. Some advisors lowered their heads, ashamed. Others looked doubtful, unwilling to accept her vision. But none dared challenge her openly. She lowered the carving, holding it close once more. Her voice dropped, almost a whisper, yet it carried to every corner of the hall. "For years I believed my mother's forests were only words. Now I hold them in my hands." Her silence after those words was powerful. The court did not move. The guards did not shift. Even the air itself seemed still. For the first time in generations, the memory of the forests was alive in the heart of their ruler. And it was a human who had given it back to her. Sam remained steady, knowing this was the moment his journey had been meant for. He did not need her praise. He did not need her promise. It was enough that the carving had stirred something within her that no wealth, no army, and no throne could ever give. The Queen stood at the center of the hall, holding the wooden carving as if it were the most delicate treasure in the galaxy. Her words still lingered in the air, powerful and unshakable. Yet the silence that followed did not last. The court was restless. Some advisors bowed their heads, touched by the memory she spoke of, while others clenched their fists, angered that such a simple gift had moved their ruler. At last, one voice broke the silence. "Majesty," said a tall advisor draped in golden silk, his voice sharp with warning, "you must not let this cloud your judgment. A human gift, no matter its meaning, cannot be allowed to sway the throne. If you open your heart to sentiment, our enemies will use it against us. This man brings weakness, not strength." His words echoed through the chamber. Several advisors nodded, their faces stern. Another stepped forward, her robe woven with silver threads that shimmered in the crystal light. "He is clever, Majesty," she said. "He knows the old stories. He knows what we lost. He plays upon your heart with careful words and this carving. It is not memory, it is manipulation. Remove him now, before his presence spreads doubt among us." Their voices grew louder. Some advisors added their agreement, their faces dark with suspicion. The guards shifted uneasily, sensing the tension rising. The great hall, once filled with quiet awe, now trembled with division. But not all were against the human. A younger advisor, his eyes wide with curiosity, raised his voice for the first time. "Majesty, if I may," he said carefully, "what if the human speaks truth? What if meaning, not power, is what we have ignored? Our world is strong, yes, but we are empty. We have walls, but no roots. Perhaps we should not dismiss his gift so quickly." His words stirred new murmurs. Some turned to him with anger, calling him naive. Others hesitated, uncertain. The hall was now split. The Queen remained silent, watching her court argue. Her gaze drifted back to the carving, her fingers brushing over its branches. She seemed far away, lost in memory, but her silence only made the court's voices rise louder. One advisor slammed his staff against the floor, his voice thundering. "This is dangerous. A piece of wood cannot decide our fate. We must end this insult now." Another, calmer in tone, responded, "No. The Queen has seen something we have forgotten. Do not call it insult when it may be truth." The hall erupted. Voices clashed, some shouting for the human to be cast out, others demanding he be heard. The guards tensed, their hands gripping their weapons, unsure whether they would be ordered to silence the chaos. The crystal wall seemed to vibrate with the noise of the divided court. Through it all, Sam remained quiet. He stood tall, his hands folded calmly before him, his expression steady. He did not defend himself. He did not try to win their voices. He simply waited, for he knew this was not his battle to fight. It was hers. At last, the Queen lifted her hand. The sound of the hall died instantly. Every advisor froze, their eyes fixed on her. She rose to her full height, the carving still held against her chest. Her voice cut through the silence with power. "Enough," she commanded. "Your voices are loud, but they are blind. You see only surface. You speak of wealth, of armies, of walls. You think that is strength. But you are wrong." Her words hung in the air. No one dared interrupt. She took a slow step forward, her robe sweeping across the throne steps. Her eyes burned with conviction. Strength is not only in what shines. Strength is not only in what can destroy. True strength is in what endures. Memory endures. Hope endures. That is what this human has brought to us. That is what you would cast aside. The hall was silent once more, but tension remained. Some bowed their heads, moved by her words. Others looked away, still unconvinced but unwilling to challenge her openly. She turned back to Sam. "You have stood in silence while my court tore itself apart. Tell me, human, why did you not defend yourself?" Sam met her gaze calmly. "Because words cannot force belief. They must see what they choose to see. If they look at this carving and find nothing, no speech of mine will change their hearts. But if they choose to see what you see, then they will know it without me saying anything." His answer rippled through the chamber. Even those who doubted him felt the weight of his honesty. There was no trick in his tone, no plea in his words. Only truth spoken with quiet strength. The Queen studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slowly. "You are wiser than many who stand in this hall," she said. Her voice struck the advisors like a hammer. Some bowed in reluctant respect. Others tightened their jaws, silent but angry. The division was clear, but none dared speak against her openly now. The Queen lifted the carving once more. "This is no trinket. This is a mirror. It shows us what we were, and what we might become again. Any who call it weakness are blind to its power. And any who call the human's gift an insult, insult me instead." Her declaration silenced the last whispers. No advisor dared continue their protest. She returned to her throne, the carving still close to her heart. The hall watched her, unsure what her decision would mean for the human envoy, for their kingdom, or for the bond forming between their ruler and this strange visitor. Sam bowed once more, his voice calm but steady. "Majesty, I did not come to divide your court. I came only to share something my people hold dear. If it has meaning for you, then my journey has been worth it." The Queen's eyes softened, though her voice remained strong. Your journey has already changed more than you know. The hall did not understand her meaning. Perhaps not even Sam did. But the division among the court had revealed a truth no one could deny. The gift had power, not because of what it was made of, but because of what it awakened. The next morning, the great hall was quieter than usual. The queen sat on her throne, the wooden carving placed beside her like a jewel of the highest order. Its presence was a reminder of the night before, when voices of doubt and voices of hope clashed beneath the crystal ceiling. Though her command had silenced the argument, the division remained like an invisible crack running through the floor. Advisors bowed as they always did, but their eyes betrayed them. Some looked at the carving with respect, while others looked at it with bitterness, as if the gift itself had stolen power from their hands. Sam entered the hall under the watch of the guards. His steps were steady, his expression calm, but he could sense the tension hanging in the air. He bowed low before the throne. "Majesty," he said, "I thank you for granting me another day in your court." The queen studied him for a long moment before replying. "You have brought more than a carving, human. You have awakened something in us. Now I must see where it leads." Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried weight. She had not slept well. Dreams of her childhood had returned, dreams of her running through gardens long gone, her hands brushing leaves that no longer grew. She remembered laughter that once filled the halls, a sound replaced long ago with the cold hum of politics. The carving had cracked open a door she thought was sealed forever. An advisor stepped forward, tall and stern. His robe shimmered with red gems that caught the light, and his voice cut through the air. "Majesty, with respect, this cannot continue. The human should not remain here. Already he divides us. Already his presence weakens the unity of the throne. Remove him now before the court loses all discipline." Others quickly nodded, murmuring agreement. But before their voices could rise too high, another advisor, younger and with softer eyes, spoke against him. "No," she said firmly. "The queen has seen meaning in his gift. You call it weakness, but I call it strength. Perhaps it is not the human who divides us. Perhaps it is our fear of change that does." The court once again trembled with argument. Some shouted for caution, others for trust. The queen lifted her hand, silencing them instantly. "You speak as though he is an enemy," she said coldly. "But has he lifted a weapon against us? Has he spoken a threat? No. He gave only a piece of his world. If that divides you, then it is not his doing. It is your own." Her words burned in the ears of the doubters, but they bowed in silence. Still, Sam could feel their anger boiling beneath their lowered heads. Later, as the hall emptied, the queen motioned for Sam to remain. The guards closed the doors, leaving them in quiet. She rose from her throne and approached him, the carving in her hands. "Do you understand what you have done?" she asked. Her voice was not angry, but heavy with thought. Sam shook his head. "I offered you something simple. I did not expect it to cause such storm." Her eyes softened, though her posture remained regal. "Storms come when old walls begin to break. My court is divided because your gift touched what they thought was buried. You reminded them that we are more than stones and armies. And that truth is dangerous." "Truth should not be dangerous," Sam replied gently. The queen looked at him with something close to sadness. "On my world, truth has always been dangerous. It is the one thing even kings and queens cannot control." She turned, placing the carving back on its stand. "I will protect you as long as you stand in my court. But know this, some will not rest. They will seek to undo you. Perhaps even in secret. Sam bowed his head. I understand. I did not come to harm you or your people. But if my presence brings danger to you, I will leave. The queen's eyes flashed with sudden sharpness. No. You will not leave. That is what they want. If you leave now, they will say you were guilty of deception. They will twist your silence into proof. You must remain, and stand as you have, quiet, but unshaken. Sam nodded. Then I will remain. For a moment, silence lingered between them, broken only by the faint hum of the crystal walls. The queen looked at him with a gaze that carried both strength and something unspoken. That night, the court grew restless. In the chambers beyond the throne room, groups of advisors whispered in corners. Some spoke of removing the human quietly, of arranging an accident that would end his influence. Others urged patience, waiting for the queen's favor to cool. But a smaller group, inspired by her words, began to believe that perhaps the human's gift carried meaning. They wondered if it was time for their people to remember the gardens and laughter they had lost. For the first time in many years, the court was alive with secret debate, not about power or wealth, but about memory and hope. Sam did not know of all the whispers, but he felt the weight of them in every glance. When he walked through the halls, servants paused, some smiling faintly at him, others turning away with cold eyes. Guards stood more stiffly when he passed, unsure whether he was a guest or a threat. One evening, as he walked alone in the garden of crystals outside the palace, he noticed a shadow following him. The figure moved quickly between the pillars, careful but not careful enough. Sam stopped, his hand brushing the wooden carving he carried with him now. "Come out," he said firmly. A young advisor stepped into the dim light, his face pale but his eyes sharp. "You do not belong here, human," the advisor said. "Your presence weakens us. Leave, while you still can." Sam met his gaze calmly. "I cannot leave. The queen has asked me to stay." "Then you will regret it," the advisor muttered, before vanishing back into the shadows. Sam stood alone in the garden, the warning ringing in his ears. He tightened his grip on the carving, not out of fear, but out of resolve. He knew now that the queen was right. His presence had stirred something deeper than he imagined. The next morning, he returned to the throne room. The queen sat tall, her expression calm but her eyes alert. She looked at him as if she already knew what had happened in the night. "Did anyone trouble you?" she asked quietly. Sam nodded once. "Only words. But words carry weight." The queen leaned forward slightly. "Then you must be stronger than their words. The court will test you. Some will seek to break you. But I will not allow it. Remember this, the storm has only begun, and you are at its center." Sam bowed deeply. "Then I will not break." The queen studied him for a long moment before allowing herself the faintest of smiles. It was a smile not of triumph, but of trust. The throne room was alive with tension, thicker than it had ever been. The human envoy, Sam, stood near the throne, calm and steady, while the queen sat high above him, the wooden carving resting gently in her hands. The court had gathered in full, and the division was clear. Some advisors' faces were tight with anger, others softened with hope, and many simply watched, uncertain what would happen next. The queen's eyes swept over the hall, calm but full of authority. "Today, the court will speak truth," she said. "Those who value strength without memory will stand aside. Those who see what this gift represents may remain." A murmur rippled through the court. Some bowed low, showing obedience. Others clenched their fists, but none dared speak without permission. The queen's presence was commanding, her voice absolute, yet fair. One advisor, the tallest in the hall, stepped forward. His robes shimmered with embedded crystals, and his voice carried a sharp warning. Majesty, this human should not be honored. His presence has divided your court. His gift is meaningless in the face of our enemies. To value a simple memory over power is dangerous. Remove him from the palace, and we will restore balance. Another advisor, her eyes wide with hope, stepped forward as well. No, Majesty. He reminds us of what we have lost. Not in power, not in wealth, but in the meaning of life itself. If we forget what we once had, we are no better than stone. This gift, though small, carries the strength that has been missing from our hearts for centuries. The queen listened quietly, her hands lightly brushing the wooden carving. Her eyes never left Sam, who stood tall and calm. He had spoken no words yet, for he knew that the court would speak for itself, and that the queen's judgment would not be influenced by him alone. She finally rose from her throne. Her robe flowed behind her like a river of light, and the entire hall seemed to pause with her movement. She stepped down the throne's wide steps and stopped in front of Sam. The court watched, silent and tense. This court has been divided, she said, her voice steady and firm. Some of you value only power, only strength, only things that shine. Others have seen the truth in what was given. You argue as though the world is only what you touch and see. But strength is not only in conquest. True strength is also in what we remember, in what we hold in our hearts, and in what we choose to protect. The hall was quiet, every ear straining to hear her next words. She held the wooden carving slightly higher, turning it so the light from the crystal walls caught its smooth surface. This human, Sam, has reminded me of something we have lost. Our people have built towers, flown to the stars, and conquered many lands, yet in our pursuit of greatness, we forgot what it means to care, what it means to remember. He brought memory back to us. He brought meaning. A hush fell over the court. Some advisors bowed their heads, recognizing the truth in her words. Others looked away, unwilling to accept that their understanding had been flawed. You may call it small, the queen continued. You may call it weak. But it carries more power than armies, more strength than weapons, and more truth than the laws we follow blindly. To see it and dismiss it is to deny the foundation of our world. Her voice softened. Sam, you have given me something that no other gift could bring. You have given me memory, hope, and a reminder that even small things can change hearts. I choose to honor you, not because of who you are alone, but because of what you have done for us all. The court stirred. Some gasped at her words, others bowed deeply, understanding that her decision was final. The queen lifted the carving toward her chest, holding it close. You may remain in my court, human. You will no longer be an outsider. You are a part of this kingdom now, as one who has given us something more valuable than gold, more powerful than armies, and more enduring than law. Sam bowed low, his face calm, but his heart raced with gratitude. Majesty, I did not seek honor. I only wished to remind you of what was forgotten. If it serves your people, then my purpose is fulfilled. The queen studied him, her eyes warm but steady. You have done more than that. You have changed the hearts of many, even those who still resist. That is the greatest gift a human could give. It is more than any weapon could do. It is more than any treasure could buy. Several advisors stepped forward slowly, their heads bowed. Some spoke softly. We see now, Majesty. The human's gift carries truth. We were blind to its value before. We are ready to follow your judgment. Others remained silent, their pride wounded, but none dared challenge her openly. The court had been tested, and the queen's decision was absolute. She returned to her throne, the carving in her hands. Let this day be remembered, she said. Let it be a reminder that power is not only what we hold in our hands, but what we hold in our hearts. Memory shapes strength, and meaning gives purpose. We will not forget this lesson, nor will we forget the one who brought it to us. Sam approached slowly, kneeling before her. The queen extended her hand, resting it on his shoulder. It was a gesture of trust, recognition, and acceptance. You are welcome here, she said simply. You have done what few could. You reminded a kingdom of what was lost and showed that even a single human can change the world. The hall erupted in quiet applause. It was not loud, but it carried a depth of respect that Sam had never imagined. Some advisors bowed, others nodded in acknowledgement, and even the guards stood straighter, their eyes no longer cold but attentive. Sam rose to his feet, looking at the queen. Thank you, Majesty. I will do my best to honor the trust you have given me. She nodded. Then we begin a new chapter. One where memory and meaning guide our actions, alongside strength and wisdom. Let this kingdom remember not only what it has built, but also what it has cherished. And let all who serve here understand that even the smallest gift can leave a mark greater than any blade. The wooden carving remained in her hands, a symbol of hope, memory, and the quiet courage of one human who had dared to give more than wealth or power. The court was no longer divided. They were united, not by fear, not by law, but by understanding and by the lesson that one small act could change a world. Outside the throne room, the sky glowed softly with the light of distant stars. The palace itself seemed to breathe, alive with the renewed spirit of memory and purpose. And for Sam, standing in the heart of an alien kingdom, it was a moment of quiet triumph. He had arrived as an outsider, carrying only a simple gift. And he had left a mark on the hearts of an entire civilization. The queen smiled faintly, looking down at the carving. You have reminded us all, human, she said softly, that even the smallest of things can hold the greatest power. And in that, we are stronger than we ever imagined. The kingdom would not forget. And neither would Sam, the human who gave the queen a present and left her speechless.